Okay, morning. Hi, morning all. I'm Nico Byleveldt. I'm from Working Forward, as you all know that. We fall under National Resource Management Programs. And I've got a couple of colleagues with me here. Mase and Moshotlwa. Mase, just stand up there quickly so everybody can just see where Mase is. And I see Banana is here. She's also project coordinator. And then Razzia, GIS specialist. They okay. Yeah, let me give you some feedback regarding the Northern Cape status and what we're about to do and doing currently. All right. There we go. I'm going to do small introductions and then the map of the areas that we're currently working in, where all our service providers are active, our clearing methods and also cost involved in that, so that you guys as private landowners can see where you can gain most from clearing, and then all the species we currently treating and in compliance. In our introduction, it's basically the whole region being broken up into 5 districts, which is the Namakwaland, John Tower, ZF Magau, Pixley, Kasime and Francis Bard. And we have active projects in all these 5 districts. We are currently using service providers to do our work for us. We used to call them LUIs, and these guys have in around 3-year contracts with us. And then areas where we don't have small LUI service providers available, we are making use of small contractors, or we call them direct contractors in the specific areas. We're currently sitting at the stage of a 15.8 million rand operational budget. Believe me, we do not get that far with that kind of money. The cost of clearing invasive trees is quite expensive. This is our operational map where we're currently working. I'll start there at the top in Askamp. We've got a project there. Kuruman, we've got a project in Kuruman where there's 2 LUIs involved. We got Warrington and Alportshoop. There's one service provider that helps us up there. And then in Kimberley, we have 3 contractors, direct contractors helping the private landowners around Kimberley. If we move down to the Pixley Kasime area, Marydale is the furthest point from the office. Our offices are there in the R. We got a team working there, also on private land, giving assistance on prosopis. Van Wykslee is a project, but we're actually working in the town Canal, and the boundary falls within Van Wykslee, so the project's called Van Wykslee. But those teams are operating within the Carnarvon area. Bridgestone, Strijdemberg, the R, and Hopetown. If we go to Namakwaland, there's one project that doesn't reflect in Namakwaland. It is, Mase, help me out here quickly. It's Witbank. Yeah, Witbank project is currently not active, but all the other areas are. They're currently working in Brandvlei, Louisfontein, Brandkop, Klipberg, Gannabos, Calvinia, and in Bloukrans. These projects are all being worked with these contracts that have 3-year contracts with the department. Except now for Pixley Kasime and the 2 there in Kimberley. Uppington, they're dealing with Askamp and Kennard, which is also direct contractors, small contractors working in that specific area. I must admit, NRM had a very late start this year. With our supply chain processes that we need to comply to, we were all waiting for order numbers for this jobs and tasks to unfold. And our first order numbers arrived very late. We only got order numbers the first week of December as a region, and therefore had a very late start in our whole process. You know, there's a lot of things that had a huge impact on getting the people in field. Compliance is a there's a serious challenge for any regions to get these contractors to comply to what your norms and standards are and what you expect from them. But yeah, as we speak, the guys are busy working in most of the areas. We're expecting the invoices to come in as we speak. Yeah, it's tough out there with the rain. You see, that we've never had so much rain in decades here in the Northern Cape. And I was actually hoping somebody to talk about the locusts, because they have an advantage to it as well. They're busy trying the prosopis trees in some areas where they go and host for the night. Yeah, but that is where we as a region is currently operating in. The current species that we're targeting is prosopis, and I've put in there warning cacti. I've got a couple of slides in the presentation regarding that. It's not only prosopis trees that we as NRM are dealing with. As we go along and as the areas the service providers are working in, we make sure that they deal with all species that's in that polygon while they're working. So, guys, the cacti is a huge problem. We're aware of the status of the prosopis, but cactus is creeping into the Northern Cape at a speed that we cannot control it. We've got a lot of partners involved in this program of ours. All of them at the back end, airports, private landowners, and all of them are seeking assistance around invasive species, especially cacti. So we will try and do as much as we can deal with these species within the allocated polygons that we deal with once we generate contracts. Our treatment methods that we're currently making use of, mainly is mark cut stump. Cut stump is a treatment method that has been used right through controlling prosopis. At this stage, with great success. In the past, we also had quite big challenges with herbicide controlling these plants to get them down. The landowners that's here know prosopis tree doesn't die easy. Believe me. I mean, you go back there 3, 4, 5 times before you will get results on that. So once we cut the tree down to that height, we recommend not higher than your ankle height, 15 centimeters maximum. Reason for being is so that your chemical that you apply on it can get to the root system as quick as possible and as efficient as possible. Fortunately, with the latest products that we got on the market, Debbie will talk a bit about that. The latest products that we got on the market, there is still area for mistakes. If you do not apply it all around the stamp and you miss a spot, obviously that tree will regrow in that specific area. Cut stump, I want to talk about the cost as well. Cut stump currently is our most expensive way of dealing with prosopis trees. You'll see when we get to the figures, it's going to be quite shocking for you guys. Next, we've got a foliar application. That happens after you cut the tree down and the tree starts coppicing. Problem. Huge problem. Any landowner knows that's the last thing that you want on your property is coppers. And that is our biggest problem currently, sitting with 80% of our areas reverting into coppers, seeing that we haven't worked for the first 4, 5, 6 months of our year. The plants get time to grow back and you can't catch up with those coppers. Yeah, there's quite a couple of products registered for it. Maybe we'll take you through the herbicide. I'm not going to talk about the herbicide. But yeah, the follow-up in our areas is quite aggressive now with all the rain we had. You can just imagine in our dry river beds where we worked, all that water that came through, some of that herbicide was applied and 2, 3 days after you get a river in flood and all those trees coppers. Basal stamp application, this is what we're aiming to head into. We want to make use of this method due to the fact of the success of it and also the cost involved. And I would like your landowners to adopt the approach that we're going to take regarding this. One of our partners, Department of Agriculture, I see they're not here. Or are there anybody from agriculture here? Right, here we go. Yeah, I must applaud, and they're also dealing with prosopis in some of the projects, very intensively. They're making use of basal stem application with great successes. And this is a way for us to go in the future with basal stem application. Biological control, it's here, it's working. We had a bit of a setback with the rains that came in, but with the volumes and amount of biocontrol agents that we released on these specific sites, we monitored it on a quarterly basis, and the successes is there. You can see these breeding populations that we've put out there is growing, and you can clearly see the impact of biocontrol. You know, Philip, the kind of work that you guys has done on biocontrol over the years, not costing us money, is really hulle begin die vrugte dra, as jy so sê. Guys, this is what we're dealing with. That's in the Brock River. I've put up a slide so that you can see the content of prosopis trees in that river. I'm not lying to you. When those trees were standing, if you take your keys out and you throw it in there, you're going to phone a friend to come and fetch you. You won't be able to go in there. That is the densities that we're dealing with, and you can just see the labor that's involved in that. So when you do a cut stump treatment, it's not only cutting the stump down, putting herbicide down, but you're also going to take it out of the waterway. If water comes down, all that brush is going to go down, breaches are going to go away. It's expensive. It's very, very expensive. Let me go into the cost of these things. On cut stump, these costs are worked out through our contracted template that I have available. So when I want to estimate what my contract cost is, I go into this template. All costs is included to that template. So I can just put in the density that I want, and it will calculate the amount of person days that I'm going to need to clear that area, and I can revert that back to cost. But let's just have a look at here. What are we paying for property? Land reformatory, you guys are here. I mean, what is land going for in the Northern Cape? 3,000 an acre. I'm throwing figures around here, your landowners will know as well. But I mean, just look at this. I mean, at a 20% dense stand, you're looking at 1,050 rand, 50% 3,200 rand, 80% 5,800 rand. And I mean, look at 100%. Is it worth us to go and clear that land? Yes, it is. Because of the economical value, there's a lot of reasons that it makes it for us worthwhile going and clearing those areas. But yeah, you can see how high the cost is. And with 15 million rand, you're not going to get far once you get into these river systems. You will see that I haven't mentioned anything here about aerial application, because we've put that on hold for a couple of reasons. After 3 years, the char areas that we sprayed start opposing to start off with. The product at that stage wasn't on government contract when we wanted to do it. There was a couple of issues that came in that we couldn't proceed with the aerial applications when we planned it. Unfortunately, with aerial application, you got a short time frame. You got it from January to end of March, and in that time, if you haven't sprayed, you missed the window. And that is on recommendations from the chemical companies doing the applications. Let's just go to basal stem application. This is what we all recommend everybody to use currently. You can see how big difference there is in basal stem application cost. And the reason for that is there's very limited tools involved. You've got a knapsack and that is it. There's no chainsaws, there's no brush cutters, there's no stack to be removed. Your operational cost goes down tremendously. Because the only thing that you do is you take the herbicide, you spray it around the stem of the tree, and that tree stands there and dies. Just looking at 100% densities, what the costs come into, it's 1,670 rand a hectare, which is the way to go for us. Yeah, and this is why the Department of Agriculture is having such a success with the Basal stem applications. They're not only clearing large areas, but they can also see the effect of what they're doing in a short time frame. I say in a short time frame, 3-4 months down the road, you will see these trees on dying with little effort. Right, I've mentioned the problems that's in our region. And please, landowners, have a look at this, because these plants are on your property. We're starting off here with chain cholla. You found this mainly around municipal areas, dumping sites. They're there. What happens? Mommy comes and take a little piece off, take it to a garden, and it's from there it's into the veld. It's a huge problem. Imbricata, old monster, but it's becoming worse. The biocontrol on it is very, very active, but unfortunately the spread of imbricata is starting to creep up with us. If we do not be notified, or you as landowners don't inform us where these plants are, we can't control it. And there is biocontrol available for it. Boxing gloves, those Kalahari guys there from Kuruman, Katu, I don't need to say anything. Server, this plant is starting to taking off all the natural vegetation. You know, where they creep in, you lose your cattle, you lose your herd. You can't keep the amount of volumes of stock on your farm anymore because of this thing. Also, very good biocontrol agent available on them, which is quite effective. Yeah. Here, Sandy, your turn now, yeah. Pine cactus. I bet you guys haven't seen one flowering in a long time, eh? But yeah, that is what it looks like. The Northern Cape, every little town that you can go to, you'll find them. They're there. So please be on the lookout for these plants. Chambi is also one of our partners, whereby they go and put out teams. They make use of our existing teams currently to go and spray these plants, because most of them don't have biocontrol agents. So they would physically go out there, put out a contract for their areas, and they'll put chemicals down and kill them off. Yeah, our direct contracting there's a different process with our direct contracting, because we are responsible for where they're going to work and how we want things to be done in our plan for the year. All our contractors currently have order numbers. Some of them has finished off also last week. But the order number process keeps on creeping up and biting us in the back once you need to deliver for presenters. You only got a short time frame to get on top of your follow-ups. And if your follow-ups are not being timeously planned and action being taken against them, they run away from you. So our order numbers is quite a delayed process. Now before we implement this direct contracts, us as NRM have got legal compliance where they need to comply on, which make it quite challenging for these contractors financially to comply with our norms and standards. But that's how the government is. We've got to comply towards all these norms and standards. With the fact that we received our order numbers for our direct contractors quite late, we only received them mid-January, begin February, we were granted authorization to reopen those order numbers, and the order number process don't need to be followed for this new financial year, which is going to help us out big time. Yeah, that's basically it. This is all our contact details for our different districts, district managers. That's Roy is sitting there in Kuruman, Patrick Somali is in Namakwa, myself, Agnes is in Uppington, and then Mase and Mongo and our director's contact details if you guys need to contact any of the officials in the different districts. Thank you.
you, Nico. Do we have any questions for Nico? Gentleman from Sandy.
Thank you so much, Nico. That's a good presentation. Recently, there's been a proposal that clearly must be coupled with some restoration. I think someone raised that concern earlier, that okay, we remove the aliens, and if we remove the aliens, what do we put back? Do we leave the ground bare, prone to soil erosion, and all other maybe secondary invasions? So my question is, in your clearing, large-scale clearing, have you started considering restoration to make sure that we recover the natural habitat?
Yeah, currently what we do is after we clear, Jacqueline and them, they're also here. I saw Jacqueline now. But we have a partnership with them as well, whereby when landowners want to rehabilitate areas, there is plants and stuff available for them. But also, obviously, there's a process that it needs to go through before they can get plants to replant in that specific area. And what's nice about that nursery, those plants are for the Northern Cape. You know, they grow quite easily here, and yeah, there is a process that we can assist people to get new plants for the areas that we want to recover.
Gentleman back.
This work for water is, I think, one of the most commendable projects that we've got in our country. But I've got a comment to make more than a question to ask. What I would like to see is that we look at the region that we are busy with, or the control of prosopis, in a little bit of a broader spectrum. As we know, it's a semi-arid area, and as you mentioned, it's a low quality grazing ground that is not priced that high in the market. The local economies are totally based on the agricultural sector, and I do think that there is a scope for better cooperation with these projects to enhance the projects in not only controlling prosopis but providing the economic stimulus for the local economies. I find that there's almost a little bit of a silo effect between the Forestry, Fisheries and Environment on the one side, Department of Agriculture on the other side, and the local communities in these areas. And I do feel that there's quite a few spin-off projects that can be launched together with the Working for Water, like fodder production and other economic activities that can enhance this program and just make it more, the impact of the money spent more in your local communities.
Can I maybe just add something as well? Compliance. Stian, you know how much additional work you gave us? Yeah, but you don't want to do. Well, I mean, I haven't said anything about herbicide assistance for landowners now as well. But in last year, when the compliance officer were quite active here in our region, the first thing that happens after that pre-directive has been issued that a landowner will come and ask you for assistance. And the bit of oversight that we had, we allocated to those landowners so that they comply. Because we knew the situation that they were at that stage. You remember, we're coming out of a drought. It's only the last 5, 6, 7 months that we had quite intensive rain. In the meantime, they were coming from a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 year drought. And the fundings are limited. So what we did then is we prioritized landowners' assistance to the people that had received directives so that we can see how we can assist them and comply. In the same breath, also for this financial year, I haven't had, or none of us has had any land back to landowners due to the fact that we were not operational and that we had commitments on those follow-up areas that is out there that we need to do our part. But surely within time goes later in the year, those areas will be handed back to landowners. And I must admit, still, the landowners are working closely with us. They're clearly aware of what needs to be done. And the only limitation is by funding, because clearing prosopis trees is very expensive. It's not cheap, and it's also a problem because with the products that we're applying, your chances of making a mistake in a tree coppers is quite high. Prosopis, you don't feel it easy. The Basal landowners, I mean, it's tough to get.
Sorry, just with regards to local economic stimulus projects, with regards to using Prosopis, if you're looking at local economic stimulus projects with regards to agriculture and using pods as fodder, there has been scientific evidence to state that using the pods as fodder, yes, it has a huge sugar content and you can use it as fodder, but there's a huge risk for dispersal of the pods because the seed can go through the gut of the sheep and it can still disperse the Prosopis seeds and cause dispersal of Prosopis, and that seed can still grow even though it's gone through the gut of the sheep. So using raw pods or dried pods as fodder for sheep is not an economic stimulus project that the department will consider due to the risk of dispersal of the pods.
Thank you, Debbie. Do you have any other questions for Nico? Hello.
Nico, just a quick question with the Basal stem application. What happens to the biomass that's left standing? So quite a bit of the problem is cattle can't access or sheep can't access an area that's got 80 to 100% cover of Prosopis. I don't know how you access it to do basal stem application in that instance, because I would imagine humans would struggle like you said with your car keys. But what happens to that mass? Do you just expect it to fall over? And how does it create access to grazing?
Philip, is fortunately for us in these areas where these trees are mostly standing in dry riverbeds, in that area or in that riverbed there's no vegetation. Let's start off with that. Accessing it's troublesome, it's not easy. The people might got to crawl through it, cut a path through it to apply the chemicals. But yeah, once we're done with that application, we usually leave the biomass to stand. If there is a contract in place with the service provider to harvest the wood and put it into the markets, that's allowed. There's no effect from the chemical on the wood if you want to use it for braai or anything like that. But Philip, no, definitely it's a challenge getting into these dense areas, spraying those trees. But what the guys do is they might cut a path through for them so that they can work through it. If areas where the trees are not firewood material or size, if I can put it in that sense, biomass size, we just leave it there to rotten off, and it rottens off quite quickly. I saw this little bug that you got there on the trees there. Why don't you get a bug for the Prosopis trees? Yeah. Hey, we need that. Yeah, no, Philip, it's a trouble. It's a problem for us getting access.
Last question for Nico. Please tell us your name and who you're from.
I'm Jacqueline Mans from the Department of Forestry based in Appleton. I just want to know what herbicides are you currently using for Prosopis, and what do you do in cases where you have a biocontrol agent to prevent host from the alien invasive plant to the indigenous protected trees?
Jacqueline, yeah, no, there's a couple of products that we're currently using for Prosopis. We, as a department, are unfortunately not allowed to use diesel. But registered products are carbon and diesel, which you landowners can use. Sorry, I apologize. You're gonna say triclin. That's one of the active ingredients that you can use. But yeah, no, there is a couple of products that's registered, Jacqueline. Once it comes to our seed feeders on the Prosopis, they only charge Prosopis. There's experts behind you. They will tell you. Maybe they're going to talk a bit later about it. But I mean, that's how I've been taught. Don't worry, it won't eat anything else. It only eats Basal.
Here we go. Nico. Thank you.
Thank you very much.